Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Jersey Comic Crew. We are talking The Boys, Season 2, first 3 episodes. So much content. Watch it right now.
Do it for the boys. Hey guys, welcome to the Jersey Comic Crew. We're bringing the news and reviews and your favorite comics, movies, and TV shows. As always, I'm Rob Moran, and with me is Chris Heller.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. New look, new setup, new face, at least on this side.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm looking around. It all looks the same.
Rob's like, what is the other face?
I have a water jug now.
Oh, you do have a water jug. That's actually good because Rob, it's
a big one.
Speaking of behind the scenes, Rob, when he was at my house, would drink like 2 bottles of water before we even started recording. Like,
how dare
like I
you
used
put
to
me
have
on
to
blast.
buy. I would have to buy like 4 cases of water at a time because Rob would come in and just crush them.
I'm like a water buffalo. I get it.
Yeah, kind of actually.
Well,
yeah.
After insulting
Anyway.
me and my water consumption, let's talk about The Boys. So, The Boys Season 2, a little different this season. Instead of dropping the whole season, they dropped the first 3 episodes, and the rest of the episodes are going to be weekly. Now, before we get into favorite moments from these 3 episodes and what we think is going to happen next, I want to talk a little bit about that concept. I've talked to some of my friends who are active followers of The Boys. Like, they watch it just as much as I do. And, you know, I get a lot of mixed views. They're like, oh, I don't like that. Well, streaming service all should be one day. Some people are fine with it because it paces it out. And I feel like that's always going to be that little battle. I'm personally on the side that I think this is a good idea. So I like the 3-episode drop because it gives you a good feeling of what this season's what's happening in the season from all the different character perspectives. And then I wait each week to read and get the rest of the story. You know, and I'm a big advocate. Like, this keeps The Boys Season 2 and The Boys as a show longer lasting in the pop culture mind space. Like, everybody's going to be more aware of this when it comes out, which gives it a better chance to grow an audience and grow a fan base instead of just dropping all day one. Like, as much as I initially enjoyed the dropping all day one style of Netflix and other shows, I personally prefer this style. You drop 3, give me a good taste of it, and then each week I get to watch more of the story. And my anticipation grows between each episode instead of just binging it all the way through. Now, Mr. Christopher Heller, where do you stand on this debate? Because I know we kind of go back and forth on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it depends on the show as well. But yeah, no, it's a great business move, right? You're keeping it in people's minds. You're keeping it fresh. You know, every week it's kind of like Game of Thrones. You're going to talk about it for as long as it's out, right? And more people, you're going to get that word of mouth. The other side of it is me just being a selfish human being. Listen, like, one, I was used to Season 1. You did it as the full drop, right? So that's what I was expecting. And 2, like, I'm an adult. You know, if I want to consume my TV shows unhealthily and binge it in a day or 2, that's my right.
No, listen. But now you can pace yourself.
That's my right to do.
And
but
you can enjoy it.
This is a show that's so damn entertainingly good and fun that I just want more of it. Like, this is a show that every episode you're going to be screaming, like, you know, WTF or something. You know, it's just one of those things I just want more of. But yeah, no, I get it. It's making it last longer. But I also, hey, if I want to stream this in 2 days and review it unhealthily as a human being, then damn it, let me.
So one of the things I wanted to touch about The Boys Season 2, you know, one of the new characters they brought in, Stormfront. Now, before The Boys Season 2 came out, we shared on our own Instagram. Make sure you follow it. Like a video from The Boys Instagram, like, that showed Stormfront, like, kind of confronting Homelander and Maeve and, like, showing the behind the scenes how things are fake. And in the first kind of episodes, you kind of saw that. Like, she was part of the 7, but she was kind of like anti-Vault, anti-company. But then we get to this one scene in the 3rd episode.
Man, you are skipping ahead.
I just want to talk about her. That's why.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
By the way, full spoilers for all 3 episodes.
Of course. I'm
watch
going to drop some bombs.
Dropping the biggest bomb of the whole thing right off the front.
She's chasing one of these super terrorists that they're calling him, right? And she's chasing him throughout a building. And I'm like, okay, she's trying to get him. That's what a superhero does. But along her way, the amount of collateral damage, not to the building and also to people, is something
that we're all a specific type of people.
Yes. Well, I'll get to yes. Which reminded me just of Homelander. I was like, oh, she's a monster. And then she's killing people being racist. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then she kills the super terrorists, like goddamn yellow people or something to that effect.
She called him a yellow bastard.
A yellow bastard. I was like, what? I thought this was like some Nebraska girl. I thought she was going to be anti-establishment. She's like a clone of Homelander.
You fell for that, Rob?
I fell for it.
I
fell for it. I thought she was going to be like, you know what? F this. You know, I'm doing this. Because she was talking about like, oh, how about female empowerment? Give women pockets. I was like, yeah, all right, cool. This is realistic. I can believe this. This is like the other side of like Starlight. Like Starlight was this innocent, sweet home girl, and she's like, oh, cool. But let me tell you how things need to be, right? Kind of get the three women perspectives in this with Maeve, Starlight, and Stormfront. Well, three of them. I don't know all of them because, you know, I'm not a woman. But, like, you kind of got that good mix. And then just to see that turn at the end, I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. And she's strong. Yeah. She got like that lightning bolts, man.
Yeah, no, she's a big time character in the comics. They actually gender swapped her. So
really?
It's actually, yeah, it's a guy. Stormfront's a male in the comic book. Same powers, same kind of set of everything. And yeah, they, you know, she's kind of in the show, you know, kind of creeping in to kind of take over Homelander's spot, as you see at the very end of that episode, where she's the one who's given that news conference and Homelander's like seething in the background.
Yeah, he's standing in the back,
like just seething with anger and rage because he took her spotlight. And he's, you know, like, oh, I told you that this, you know, it was mine to take. He's like, well, you snooze, you lose. But yeah, she went through basically like a project, right? Like she was running through one of the project buildings, and like didn't care about anybody walking in the halls, people's apartments. Like someone came up to her. She went
out of her way to kill these people.
Yeah, and it was all black people. And then she jumps over and, you know, snaps the dude's wrists, which was gross and also great.
I mean, that was a cool line when she did. She's like, "Oh, you can't do your magic hand thingies anymore. I wonder why." I was like, "Oh, sassy." All
nuts. Right. Yeah, and he actually ends up being the brother of Kiko.
Yes.
And man, that was a good story in itself. So it's very interesting how that turned out. I'd like to actually go back to my favorite episode so far was the first episode.
Why is that?
I think it was such a great comeback to, and it wasn't like a like, oh, this is kind of what's been going on. Like we didn't get the rehash of a bunch of stuff. It throws you in at first. There were like 5 or 6 different times I flipped out and was like, what? I'm like, oh,
so
you know,
you gotta say them. People want to know.
Oh yeah, obviously. But like the beginning was great with Black Noir going and like killing the quote unquote terrorists.
Guys, Black Noir, like he's one of those.
He's gonna be big character.
He's gonna be huge, right? Like I feel it. Like we saw very little of him in season 1, season 2. We saw that little scene of him just annihilating people, like straight up like an assassin. And it was so cool. Like so far, he's one of the only members in the 7 that I don't hate, but I'm sure I will in time.
But yeah, that was also that terrorist organization that Homelander basically made up, right?
Yeah.
So that they could attack other countries and, you know, he could be a continuous horrible human being. But yeah, that was crazy. The fake, like Hollywood style funeral for the
oh my god,
was
how
hilarious.
Self-serving was that?
Oh and man,
it was like almost like a televangelist special. That's what it reminded me of, like one of those guys on TV. And like that's obviously not the body because the body doesn't exist. They just put an empty casket, but that's translucent. Like
it's translucent.
Okay. Was it the first episode that Homelander talked to Giancarlo Esposito's character?
Yes, Giancarlo Esposito is new in this season.
Dude, first off, he was fantastic. And like to see, I'm going to let you talk about it a little more depth, but to see the power that a human possesses, that political and business power that he had to make Homelander stop in his tracks when Homelander is literally the strongest, most vicious person in the world. Like that acting that he brought to the table sold it. It was beautiful.
You don't mess with Gustavo Fring, man.
Dude, he was like
any form.
He was like, I'm cleaning up your mess. You don't tell me what to do. I don't have to tell you anything. You're just my property. I was like, Oh, well, you're gonna die. I think. I don't know. He might die by the end.
Oh,
of
he's totally gonna die.
Yeah,
Homelander will figure out some way to kill him.
I think so. He's gonna die.
Yeah,
he's too arrogant.
So that was great. Bringing Giancarlo Esposito as like the no nonsense, like basically head of Vought, who's now like flipping everything on its heels while Homelander's basically trying to do his takeover.
Yeah.
Was really great. That first episode's crazy. I really loved the scene with like Huey kind of coming back from like seeing Starlight and kind of how he melds, and she's like, taking off the extra wig and all like the pretty stuff that like dolls her up. I love the music choices were phenomenal. A lot of Billy Joel.
Yeah.
I absolutely was nuts when what's-her-face's head blew off. The FBI agent's head blew off when they met her.
Dude,
and you're like, wait, what? What's happening?
We have to talk about that right now because that's one of the big plot points that they set up, right? Yeah. So the FBI is on Vaught's tail. They're trying to figure out like the secret behind Vought, and obviously the group, the boys, have an idea. And as soon as she said it, her head explodes. Now, my question is, who did that and why? Because it's obviously not one of the 7. Because if it was one of the 7, they would have killed the boys. Because they know them. They see in their faces. They know what they're going to do. So is it a different party that's going to be introduced? Is it another one of the FBI who's working interiorly for Vought? Maybe.
I think it's Esposito.
You think it's Esposito?
I think it's Esposito. I think he has. I think Giancarlo Esposito has like people working for him.
Oh
no! I just think he has people working for him. It's almost like he's the Amanda Waller to the Suicide Squad, right? Like, it's like this Task Force X, where like they have a chip in there for some reason, and he has basically a mole in the FBI that is like, oh, you're coming in for your physical or to be checked up, and they inject this with you, and if you say certain trigger words that go against Vought or that V formula or whatever.
Well,
boom.
It's Compound V is the
Compound V
name. But you might be onto something because I'm rewatching parts of episode 1. I'm showing Heather because she saw like parts of season 2. She's like, "This is awesome." Like, fuck these people. I was like, all right, you gotta watch it from the beginning. Amazing. But one of the lines from season 1 that I remember vividly, it was that, remember Translucent, when he was captured, he was chipped. Like, they're chipped. Yes. So maybe all these people are chipped, and it could literally be a Suicide Squad parallel where, you say something wrong and you get exploded. So maybe
definitely.
Maybe she worked for Vought at one point or somehow got chipped from it, right? And, like, there's so many parallels with the Justice League anyway. What's wrong to say that you have another parallel with the Suicide Squad into this? I think that could be a very strong theory.
And she knew Butcher, right? Like, in season 1, we see her and Butcher have a past. Butcher, obviously, his wife worked for Vought. He was closely around Vought before he became Billy the Butcher.
Which is still a good name.
So everyone kind of has this, like, if not direct, but indirect connection to Vought. So I can totally see them being behind, like, these quote-unquote chips and heads thing.
Well, now, like, speaking of Butcher's character, right? Like, when we last saw Butcher, he was dropped off at his wife's house with the bastard child of Homelander and his wife, right? We see the child there. And now in this first 3 episodes, we see that he got dropped off somewhere. He doesn't know where exactly that house is, but he wrote down, ideas and details of the house that he could remember. Yeah. And his kind of arc so far in these first 3 episodes is like, he has to find that super terrorist, Amiko's brother. Oh, wait, it's not Miko, it's Kiko. I said her name wrong.
Kiko. Something like that.
Yeah, it's Kiko's brother. So that way he could somehow get away to see his family again, right? So, like, that's his driving motivation, and, like, that's causing some conflict with the rest of the group because they're more siding with Huey now. They're, like, more humanized. They're like, all right, Huey's doing smart things, Butcher's a little bit more on the opposite side, right? So that's causing some tension within the group. Yeah. But that leads us right into the whole Homelander playing dad thing. I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit.
Man, that is how uncomfortable is watching that.
That's probably one of the other big factors in this first couple of episodes, right? Like, he's not leaving this woman alone or this kid, and he's trying to be this pseudo dad to, like, I guess, live on his legacy, his mommy figure he killed. So I guess like he's trying to replace that with the new crutch, which would be his son, and he's trying to force his son to love him. He pushed him off a roof to try to have him fly. And I was
it's
like,
only 20 feet. He's fine.
Yeah, I thought the son didn't have powers, and then he stepped up, and he like was gonna like laser Homelander. I was like, oh, it's going down. It's going down.
Yeah. But that's also the scary part, right? Like if this kid eventually becomes like Homelander's, Robin per se, you're talking, the world's doubly effed because you have two now. But I think that whole sequence of events with Homelander with the pancakes and, basically saying I'm not going to leave or whatever is crazy and right up his alley. Also, the milk fetish thing is still so like cringeworthy, awkward.
God.
The frozen breast milk thing in her office was
that's like the last of her frozen breast milk. Probably.
Oh, it was so gross.
Here, let me ask you a question about that boy, because obviously the boy's important. We're going to learn more about him in the rest of the episodes. But my question to you, Chris, and to those of you watching, the boy, if I'm not mistaken, was probably like the first child that was actually born with powers, right?
Yes.
Because the compound V was in his father, and he was born with powers through natural birth. So, like, you could view this kid as like half human, half superpowered.
Yeah.
Does this kid hold the key genetics to making a more superhero world, like a more regular superhero world without Compound V? Like, other people could be born with superpowers. Like, is this the beginning of a new generation for this boy superhero universe? And do you think that's going to play some part where, like, Vought wanting to keep the boy or Homelander trying to protect the boy? Do you think we're going to see that whole angle, or do you think they're just going to focus on that boy being Homelander's son, potentially being corrupted and becoming like an evil Robin?
I think a little of both. I agree with you 100%. Like, he's totally like the first of a new breed, right? He wasn't made with the Compound V. He was born, as naturally as it could be. And yeah, he was born with superpowers. He wasn't made in a lab, which we see the outlook of, what happens when the Compound V is kind of thrown out there, right? And everyone knows. Like, there's a shot of Black Noir like crying in the hallway because he thought he was born with powers and his life is kind of a lie.
That poor Black Noir, man.
Hey, don't feel bad for him. There's gonna be a lot of stuff with him eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, like, a lot of them kind of, obviously Starlight knew that she was made like that. Homelander obviously knew, but like Black Noir clearly didn't know. Mm-hmm. The Deep I don't think knew either. Well, yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, speaking of, let's talk a little bit about the Deep, right? Because he is like
the Deep is just I can't. Like, it's the perfect anagram for like 70s Aquaman, where he's just a joke.
Yeah, like that's what he like. He was a dick in season 1, right? He sexually assaulted Starlight, and now like he's pretty much like punishment. Like, he's not part of the 7. He's out in the middle of East Bumblefuck.
He's in Ohio,
and like he's down on his luck. And now, like, this weird, like, culty church is trying to, like, get their hands on his mind and try to manipulate him. And then, like, it eventually works, and he goes back to try to, like, save the day, and he just gets another animal die. Like, they just drive him over to another whale. Like, the Deep has to learn to stop playing with animals.
That scene is so great.
I didn't see that coming. I did not.
I didn't either, and I was like, oh. So, like, yeah, like, he goes through this crazy, like, mushroom drugged up fantasy world where he has to deal with the fact that he has gills on his abs. And I think the voice of his, like, talking gills was Patton Oswalt.
It was. I was thinking the same thing. It's Patton Oswalt.
It sounded just like Patton Oswalt, which was really funny. And he's like, look at me, I'm not going away. And he's, like, talking to himself. He kind of has, like,
his body. A mini redemption arc here, right? Like, you kind of feel for him.
Yeah, like, he's trying to be better, but he's also trying to get back into the 7, which is, like why?
Like, how bad Homelander is.
Well, yeah, and you also see Homelander be like, dude, your gills are showing, that's gross. Like, cover it up.
Yeah, when he just accepted his gills.
He just accepted it. So... yeah, but that scene in episode 3 where he's like, he finds the boys out in the water, and you see like the dolphins and sharks kind of like chasing them, and he rides like this giant sperm whale that they ram through with a speedboat going like 90 miles an hour. just amazing. Like the fact that Huey's just sitting inside the whale because he just
he's like, you know what? I think I'm done.
Yeah,
no,
I'm good here. I'm gonna stay. Like totally like Luke in the Tauntaun in Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved every aspect. I think the deep, much needed comic relief.
Definitely.
In this world where everything's intense and terrible, and like Homelander's just killing people and threatening people. Like what he did to the blind guy, where he was like,
I was so
good to meet
excited
you.
for him.
And
I thought he
like
cool.
was doing all this cool stuff. He's like, hey, what happens if I do this? And just like smashes his eardrums and like bleeds out on the floor.
And that was a lot of blood.
Terrible. Also makes sense. Like as far as like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, but also like if it's regular people he's fighting, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he went into like this horrible like discussion of like people with disabilities and ailments.
Yeah, he's so
and he's like screaming at the lady. So like I was like, jeez.
This
yeah,
season 2 has been
so good.
So good with the first 3 episodes. Like we just talked about a lot of the major plot points. And I think it's pretty safe to say that it's more wild and graphic in the first couple episodes.
Great.
And I think it's going to surpass season 1 with all the crazy, gory, and graphic stuff that we're going to get. Which
I think A-Train's going to snap.
Yeah, A-Train, he came back almost like from the dead, and like he kind of let Starlight get away with the Compound V. But it looks like every time he runs, he's having like little episodes. I think he's going to die. I think he's just going to straight up die.
I really liked their conversation where he came in and was like, you don't mess with the money.
True.
Because that's not only just a metaphor for like you're messing with our money and our payment and we're going to mess with you, but you're messing with the Fortune 500 company who's going to come down hard as hot. Like they're going to kill you. If they
there's definitely going to be repercussions of her releasing that information.
Yeah.
And
she's like, oh, money's not everything. And he's like, sounds like someone who came from money. Like I thought that was a great conversational point. Because to me, A-Train was always like, he's not a smart human being most of the time, right? Like he's obviously an addict in some ways, but a lot of his decision making just isn't smart. Like he's kind of like the classic dumb celebrity where they're partying and just like filling up that celebrity meter.
Yeah,
but I thought that was a really smart aspect of him.
So guys, I think that is our review done of the first 3 episodes. Safe to say we loved it. We want to hear your thoughts on the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 2. Make sure you comment down below. And make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As always, I'm Ron Moran.
And I'm Chris Heller.
And we'll see you next time.
YouTube.com/JerseyConquer.